After moving abroad and being abroad for a year, I am decided to move back.
Moving to Guyana, I know
This
it's
girl heart
costing us
is
a
bad.
lot.
She don't listen now. Look, look, look. She moved
You
back to
live in Guyana,
America.
you got to know for teeth. You got to know
Guyana's
for
not for
life.
y'all. Backside
Darling,
can't
come
survive
home
in
or
Guyana.
go and find another country.
There are three main reasons. There's a lot of little things, but there are three main reasons. But the last reason, the very last reason, is a big, big, big reason. My name is Jojo, and I like to use my videos and pictures from traveling around the world to talk about important political issues. So, reason number one, I realized that as someone who likes to travel, as someone who, even though I moved abroad, I was still going to travel. I realized that Guyana is not a good base to travel to other countries. I really thought that being in South America, it would be easier to get to other South American destinations from Guyana. But similarly to how parts of Africa are not well connected, Guyana is still very isolated within South America. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that, colonization, but essentially every single time I would search for a flight leaving Guyana, I would also search for that same flight, but starting in DC. And the difference was just so small or non existent. Like, if I looked for a flight from Guyana to Costa Rica or from Guyana to Peru, it would be the same amount of money or slightly more expensive or just slightly more of a hassle. Like, I would have more stops. I would always have to fly to Bogota or to somewhere in the Caribbean or to the US and then fly to wherever. Like, even going from Guyana to some of the Caribbean islands, it was just easier to stop in Miami for whatever reason. And it just really pisses me off. I mean, there was even a time when I went to Brazil on like through land. It was like a small countryside part of Brazil. It was not Rio or Sao Paulo. It was Boa Vista, which shout out to Boa Vista. Boa Vista was a very fun trip. It was very nice. But like, I don't feel like I explained myself correctly here, so let me just clarify. What I'm talking about in this next clip is specifically about if you are moving abroad and you're applying for temporary or permanent residency in a country like Portugal or Germany. They have a certain amount of days that you are required to be in that country. Some of the other places that were on my list of places I wanted to go, like Germany or France, they really want you to be in that country for a certain amount of days within the 365. Like, literally, like with Germany specifically, they want you to be in Germany for 300 days out of the 365 if you're going to move towards permanent residency and citizenship and all of that. And then every time you would have to renew your visa, you would have to answer to the fact that, like, girl, why are you spending 200 days outside of Germany, but apparently you live in Germany? So with Guyana, it felt easier to have it as a base. But in the end, it was still not as accessible and just as expensive. And what makes Guyana easier in terms of moving abroad is instead of other places like Portugal, I would not have to apply for a temporary or permanent visa. I could just apply for citizenship by descent through my parents. All you need is one parent, but both of my parents are Guyanese. So, okay, number two reasons why I feel like I might as well just move back to the US and Guyana is not the place for me is because there's so much development happening in Guyana right now. Like 10 years ago, they discovered oil. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew that oil was there. But the political party that was in place at the time was like, okay, yeah, let's like hook up with ExxonMobil and start drilling for oil. So they started drilling for oil. The GDP rose, and Guyana has become one of the fastest growing economies in the world. But I feel like with all of this construction and development in Guyana, a lot of Guyanese, a lot of the improvements that I've seen, they just feel like replications of American culture. To put it plainly, sometimes I feel like Guyanese people just want to be like the US, and that is the kind of shit that I am moving abroad to get away from. So it's obviously not everyone in Guyana wants to be like the US, but it's too many people. Too many people in Guyana feel like the US is a good standard. And to me, I'm like, as an American, as a lot of Guyanese people, even though I say I'm Guyanese American, a lot of Guyanese people still treat me as though I am an American. Okay, fine. As an American, I can tell you the standard is not, like, the US standard is not that great. And I see so many Guyanese people like putting US brands above all other brands, especially when it comes to food products. Like, give me that made in Mexico any day, because the US does not have good standards. Like, the types of chemicals that are allowed in US foods. Okay, so here are just a few other examples of how I feel like Guyana is just leaning into American culture way too much. And for me, as someone who was moving abroad, like, that is literally what I'm trying to get away from. So number one, Guyana is becoming very car centric, which I think it's such a disservice. Like, everybody in Guyana wants a car. Like, when I moved to Guyana, everybody was like, "Oh, are you gonna get a car? Are you gonna get a car? Car, car, car." Everybody wants a fucking car. Like, it's like, and I think there's like this idea, like, it's becoming a growing sentiment that, like, public transportation is for poor people, which that is not true when you go anywhere else outside of the U.S. Like, public transportation is for accessibility, and I feel like the government is not investing in public transportation. There is actually no public transportation. It's all privatized. And it just feels like this beautiful landscape on the outskirts of the Amazon rainforest is becoming just overrun with cars. It used to be that you could get from the countryside to the city in 20 minutes. And now sometimes it takes 2 flipping hours. And that's the kind of commuting, that's the kind of traffic that I wanted to get away from, that I left in DC and wanted to get away from. Guyana becoming car-centric also means that the economy and the people in the economy are reliant on the oil industry. And it just feels like everything in Guyana's economy is reliant on the oil industry, which I think is a bad bet. Like, look at Trinidad. Most of their economy was relying on oil, and that's why their prime minister was letting Trump use Trinidad's water to invade Venezuela, because she needs the flipping oil. Like, she needs a better oil deal with Venezuela. And then also there was like a lot of anti-immigration sentiment, like very anti-Venezuelan. In Guyana, in Georgetown today, you'll be hearing a lot more Spanish being spoken. And instead of Guyanese people kind of like embracing that and learning different languages, it was become like, oh no, you have to learn how to speak English here. I don't know. It was just a lot of like the culture. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe this is just me. But then I saw another person of Guyanese American heritage post about how she went to Guyana after years of not having visited Guyana. And she was just shocked about how much Guyana wants to be like the US. And it's not even the best parts of American culture. Like, it's not the sexual liberation part of American culture. Sometimes I feel like Guyana is adopting the worst parts of American culture, the individualism, the car-centric society, and not really developing the country based off what the people in the country need. It feels like everything is just modeled off of what they have in the US. Okay, so those 2 reasons were just kind of smaller. The biggest reason, and I feel like the most important reason, is the misogyny in Guyana is very real. The machismo is very, very real. When I moved to Guyana, I knew that things were not going to be super developed. I knew that it was going to be a more conservative culture. I was prepared for the homophobia. I was prepared for the women are supposed to be submissive things. I was prepared for, why don't you have kids? You're 30 years old kind of thing. What I was not prepared for were the PDF files. Let me explain. Right now in Guyana, the number 1 killer of Guyanese women, the number 1 killer of women, it's not heart disease, it's not cancer, it's not drowning, it's not car accidents. The number 1 killer of Guyanese women are men. It's their boyfriends, their husbands, and their fathers. That is the number one reason that women die in Guyana. It's not even childbirth. It's literally their boyfriends, their husbands, their fathers. The misogyny and the machismo in Guyana was the number one reason why I just could not feel completely comfortable living there. I don't feel safe going out to bars. I don't feel safe going out to clubs. I don't feel safe having a child. I don't feel safe dating in Guyana. I went on a date with a man, and literally the next day he was talking about how we're going to get married. I went on a date with a man. I literally met this man twice. One time I met him, the second time we went on a date, and then literally the next day from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. this motherfucker was texting me non-stop, like obsessively. So then even like, okay, I'm gonna cool off on dating for a while. But every day when I leave my house, every day when I leave my apartment and I walk around Georgetown, I am just constantly being verbally harassed by men. I'm constantly being verbally harassed by men. Kissing at me, talking to me, hustling me, hollering at me, like what, like. I'm going to give you 3 very specific instances so that you can understand the severity of the situation. I really don't feel like I'm making a big deal. Like, when I tell you I leave my house and I have no less than 12 men who have harassed me, like I could leave my house, go to the market and come back, and you ask me what happened, I'd be like, 12 men fucking harassed me. Like saying really vulgar shit sometimes. Like, oh, baby, you're sweating. Let me come lick the sweat off of you. Excuse me, sir? Sir. Oh, I hope you have a good man at home treating you nice. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, you can't say good afternoon? You're rude. I was gonna come and tell and kiss you up and tell you sweet things, but now since you're rude, I'm not gonna tell you nothing. I'm not gonna tell you nothing. Like, I cannot. Okay, so picture this. I am in downtown, like I'm right by the car park in Georgetown, Guyana. And I'm walking in front of the courts, the magistrate's building, right? There is a group of like at least 5 police officers in uniform in the doorway of one of the magistrate's building. And they're walking out, and they're like, and as I'm walking by, I'm literally wearing t-shirt and leggings, as if what I wore mattered. But anyway, so as I'm walking by, they're walking out of the courtroom, or like an official government building. And they're like, oh. And so I'm just like, okay, ignoring them, rolling my eyes like, oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Again, ignoring them, rolling my eyes. Oh, you can't say good afternoon. Oh, you look so nice. Da-da-da-da. This is like, it's multiple of them. Multiple police officers hustling me, hollering at me, street harassing me, saying very vulgar, very sexually explicit things. This is not like, oh, good morning, beautiful. It's literally, good afternoon, you look sexy, you keep your body slim and nice. Me like that. Like, what the you are a police officer. And how the fuck am I supposed to feel safe coming to the police? No wonder women in Guyana don't go to the police about rape or abuse or incest, because look at how the police act. These are the people that's supposed to protect and what the fuck? In front of a government building. And there are other people, there are guards, there are other government officials around. You think anybody said anything to these police officers in uniform? And like, believe me, in America, our police officers will kill you. Literally. Like, I've had NYPD try to get my number, but that's not the same as 5 police officers literally harassing you. That's not, it's a little different. And mind you, I've had police officers like walk up to me like, oh, good morning. I just wanted to say you look nice, and oh, is there any chance I could possibly get your number? You get WhatsApp? And I'm looking around like, okay, in the middle of quality? You want to do this in the middle of quality? Again, uniformed police officer. Fine. Give me the space to say no. Give me the opportunity to decline you and not feel like my life is under attack. But when you have 5 police officers in uniform in front of the government building hollering at you and nobody can say shit, and they're saying vulgar things at you, yelling at you, and then when you ignore them, they want to say mean shit to you. It's like, what the fuck is this? I just went to the market to get some pineapple and some tomatoes, and this is what I'm dealing with. Second instance, I got into a taxi, and the driver immediately was like, "Oh, you look nice. Where you from? Da da da. This and that. Blah blah blah." Telling me I'm pretty. Okay, cool. Towards the end of the ride, I asked him how much for the ride. Like, how much do I have to pay for this trip? This man gonna tell me, "Oh, if you give me your number, it's free." Sir, how much is for the fucking ride? So we go back and forth with the price. Right before he was about to drop me off, he said something that I cannot get out of my head. Right before he dropped me off, he said, "So what's a pretty girl like you out here in the middle of the day? Aren't you supposed to be in school, young lady?" What? My brain literally could not compute because I was like, in school? In school? In school? Am I supposed to be in school? So I'm just like, cause I'm a woman in her 30s. I guess depending on how I wear my hair or my makeup or whatever, I could look like, yeah, I could look 25 or something. So I'm like, oh no, like I was like, are you talking about like university? He said, "Oh, you're in college." And I'm like, this motherfucker thought I was in high school? This motherfucker thought I was in secondary school? He thought I was in school? K through 12 school? He thought I was in K through 12 school, and he's out here calling me pretty and shit and saying, "Oh, I don't have to pay for the taxi if I give him my number." He's out here asking school girls for their fucking number. He's out here asking girls in secondary school for their number. That's what he's doing. I think my head almost exploded. I think my head could have exploded right there. The way I wanted to jump out of that car. Thankfully, that was the end of the ride, but I literally was like confused for the rest of the day. I was like, there's no way this man thought that I was like 17, 18, 19. Like, there's no way that he thought that. There's no way. Because when I asked him about the university, I was like, "Oh, you mean like the university?" And he was like, "Oh, you're in college." Like, he was shocked that I was in college. And I was like, "So you thought that you thought that I was a child. You thought that I was a child and you was asking a child. You thought that you were asking a child for her number." That's something that has never happened to me anywhere in this world before. So, the third instance of this kind of street harassment. Last year, 2025, an 11-year-old girl named Adriana Young in Guyana was kidnapped and her body was later found. And I was in Guyana at the time. There were a lot of protests. There were a lot of people talking about it. It felt like that was all people could talk about for weeks and weeks, and even months went by, because it was clear that somebody had done something to her before. Like, a lot of, like, the crime scene made it seem like she had drowned, but everyone knew this was much more malicious than that. So I'm on my way to the Chinese supermarket, and there's a group of men sitting outside of the Chinese supermarket, and I overhear them talking about the Adriana Young case. And they're literally saying things like, "Oh, you know, somebody must have kidnapped her and did unspeakable things to her, god-awful things. You know, they must have... There's no way this body just show up in the pool. There's no way she drowned. Some nasty man must have kidnapped her and did something to her." I overhear these guys talking about this in front of the supermarket. And as I'm entering into the supermarket, they see me stopped their conversation, did not even take a full breath before they turned around and said, "Look at you legs, girl. You get nice long legs. Look at you. You keep yourself nice and fit. Morning. Morning. Oh, you can't say morning to people. You don't got manners. You don't got manners." No, I don't have manners. What the fuck are you talking about? We're literally just talking about an 11-year-old girl that was... And in that same breath, you want to come harass me, sexually harass me. How? How is that possible? How can you act? How does your brain do that? How do you see? How are you talking about the humanity of this girl and all the unspeakable things that must have happened to her, and then turn around and harass me? This was one of those times where I'm just like seeing red. Like, I'm just like... And mind you, as I mentioned earlier, and the reasons why I moved abroad is because I'm not about to let nobody raise my blood pressure. Not the traffic, not no manager, and not a fucking man. Not a single man. So I just found myself over and over and over in these situations where men were literally harassing me. And it's like, what do? I ignore them, and they keep going. I address them, and now it's an argument. What am I to do? What am I to do? And I just don't feel like, similarly to the other reasons, sometimes I just don't feel like there's enough people who see the problem for me to feel comfortable staying in Guyana. Like, in every one of those instances, when it was the police officers, there were other government officials around. The taxi guy, okay, there was nobody else around, but still, that was disgusting. In this last instance, in front of the Chinese supermarket, there were other people around. There was a Chinese lady, there was another person shopping. Nobody even, like... And I know there's a lot of feminist groups like Tumake, I think that's how you say it. They're a feminist group that's coming out talking about the violence against women in Guyana. And I think that those people are doing great, but sometimes it's like there's just not enough people who get it. It just feels like there's not enough people who see the connection between the street harassment and the violence against women and girls in Guyana. Honestly, I do feel like I was a part of this wave, this movement of women who told men to stop harassing us. We marched in New York and DC and Ohio. And, I literally taught anti-harassment workshops to nonprofit organizations, businesses, and churches, like religious institutions, to talk about like how harassment shows up and how that leads to violence. The thought of going through that all over again, having those conversations all over again, it just feels exhausting, especially when it feels like I'm one of the very few people who have a problem with it. I talk to my other friends, I talk to men and women about it, and they're like, oh, just ignore it. I'm not gonna just ignore it. That's not in my nature. And there are other smaller reasons why I feel like Guyana is not the best place for me. But ultimately, I'm realizing that although I come from this culture, it's still not my culture, and the culture doesn't really mix with where I'm at in my life right now. Like, I can't think of myself as dating in Guyana, knowing the statistics, the amount of men who are violent towards the women that they claim to love. And even if it's just the simple fact that there's not enough people who speak out against it, who are willing to march for it, who are willing to put laws in place against it. And even right now in the US, there are some high-level cases of intimate partner violence against Black women at the hands of their husbands and their boyfriends. That concludes this video. I think there are other smaller reasons why Guyana doesn't fit with what I want for my life right now. And I think ultimately Guyana will always have a special place in my heart. I spent a lot of summers, a lot of my childhood going to Guyana. And so I still want to build a house on my family's property. I still want to spend a good amount of time there. Beginning of 2025, I really thought Guyana was going to be a soft landing for my move abroad journey. But I am moving back to the US and I am reassessing what other countries, cities, places might I want to spend my time. But I don't see myself living in Guyana long term. I tried something new. I traveled, I moved abroad, and it didn't work out, but I also feel like I learned a lot of lessons along the way, so I want to share that with you all. I want to share my Guyana journey with you all, and hopefully this will help you on your move abroad journey, especially if you're a Black woman, if you're of Caribbean descent, or if you're a first generation American. I hope you like this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be posting more about moving abroad as well as just general travel tips. And I also am going to go back into my World News Report roundup. So look out for those things. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. Have a great day.